Hello everyone and welcome to the channel again. In this video, I want to give you a review of a product, a chatbot that is called AskYourDatabase. If you remember, in the past two videos, we designed LLM agents in order to interact with databases. And to be more specific, we interacted with SQL databases, graph database, and tabular data. So AskYourDatabase is a no-code and low-code version of what we designed to interact with our SQL database. But it has some more features, which I will mention in a moment. But for now, let's have a quick look at AskYourDatabase and see what it is. We can use AskYourDatabase in three different ways, and as you can see them here, you can either use the ChatGPT plugin, or you can download the desktop app and use it locally, or we can create a chatbot and integrate it in our applications. So in this video, I just want to cover these two, and I will leave ChatGPT plugin to you. In case you find it interesting, please feel free to go and check it out. These are the databases that AskYourDatabase supports at the moment. As you can see, it supports MySQL, SQL Server, Postgres, Snowflake, and MongoDB. And behind the scene, for the LLM, it uses GPT-3.5 and GPT-4, and it allows us to choose between those two models. So here I'm just summarizing the key features of the desktop app and the chatbot that we can create on the website. And I've already mentioned the first two, so I will skip them. But one nice touch on AskYourDatabase is that we can add documentation, PDF files, extra information about our databases, along with examples, let's say queries and their answers as a few-shot approach in order to improve the performance of the chatbot. So I will show you how we can do it while I'm going through the chatbots. And of course, one of the main aspects of this application must be the ease of use. And actually, it is easy to use. So in order to use AskYourDatabase, you just need to launch your database and make sure that it is accessible. Connect the database to the desktop app or the chatbot, depending on what you want to do. In case you are using the chatbot, you have to integrate it into your application. But in case you want to use the desktop app, you can immediately start chatting. In order to test AskYourDatabase, I'm going to use Sakila DB, and I'm choosing this database for two main reasons. The first reason is that Sakila DB is not a simple database. As you can see, it's quite complex, and I just was curious to see how AskYourDatabase would perform on these type of databases. The second reason is Sakila Database is free to download, so you can easily download this database and replicate all the questions and all the steps that I'm going through this video in order to make sure that you are on the right track. And this is just a short description of the database, and in the description of the video I will include all the links to all the resources that I'm going to use in this video. In order to prepare the test, I've already went through some steps. I prepared the database, my desktop app, etc. But I'm not going to cover these steps in the video because they are just outside the scope of the video. However, here briefly, I will mention all the steps that I went through. In case you would like to replicate them, you can easily follow along and go through them as well. So I've already downloaded and installed MySQL Workbench. I've already prepared Sakila Database. I've already downloaded and installed AskYourDatabase on my PC. And I've also already installed ngrok. So again, as I mentioned, there are two approaches that I want to show you. First is the desktop app itself, as we can see here. And also, we can create a chatbot on AskYourDatabase website, connect it to a database remotely, and then integrate that chatbot into our application. Since I don't have a remote database, I want to use ngrok to somehow synthetically create that scenario. Use the ngrok's URL to create the connection string to my remote database, and then we will use that connection string to connect to our chatbot and integrate the chatbot into our application. So now let me show you how we can create the connection strings and connect our desktop app to our Sakila database, and also connect our chatbot to our Sakila database. We just saw how we can connect our desktop app to our database, and also I showed you how to create a URL using ngrok and create the connection string and use it to connect the chatbot to our database as well. So here I want to briefly show you how we can add the documentation and extra information about our database, and also provide future learning to the chatbot in order to improve the performance. So on the desktop app, in case you go here, you will see that it says train to get better responses. If I click on this tab and go inside, I would see that on the top I have train your AI, and here I can print whatever I want. And here also you can add extra documentation, so you can start adding more documentations to your chatbot. And also on the bottom, you can start adding examples. This is a very well-known approach that we call future learning for the large language models. And this is a very nice thing to have. And again, you can also add more examples in order to just improve the performance of the model. And on the chatbot side, so in case I need to create one to show you here. So in case you check here, you will see there is a part that says knowledge, and here you can start adding information about your database. If I hover right here, I will see it says it is going to use those documents as the knowledge base for the AI. Since Sakila database is not a challenging database in that regard, I'm not going to add extra information or examples to the chatbots, but in case you test the chatbot on your database and you see that the LLM agents are not stable enough and they cannot give you the answer to all your questions, you can definitely test these features and start improving the chatbot as well. So in the next step, I want to start passing some questions to the chatbots and see the performance of the LLM agents behind the scene. Let me just create a new session and start a fresh session so we can go through the questions together. So for the first question, I want to start with a simple one, and I just want to ask list 10 films in the database. In order to verify the performance of the chatbot, I wrote some Python codes in order to use pandas query and extract the answers for the exact questions that we are going to ask our chatbot and verify the performance. So for the first question, if I print the answer, the chatbot should give me Academic Dinosaur all the way down to Aladdin, and I just saw Academic Dinosaur, but let's wait a moment and see the full response. So the first thing that I'm noticing right now is actually the previous time that I tested the chatbot, the speed was much faster, and let's say the streaming of the response was much smoother than what we see right here. So that is one thing that I saw sometimes. I'm not sure why it has some delay in the response, but the answer itself, we can see that in the end we see the Aladdin one, and if I scroll on the top, we will see Academic Dinosaur. So the answer was actually correct. Let's ask another question. So show the details of the film Academic Dinosaur. If I also print the answer here, I expect to have a description that starts with epic drama. I expect to see the release year, which is 2006. So I see here the release year 2006, the description is epic drama, and the length is 86. Let's see the length. The length is 86 minutes. So again, the answer was correct, and I think I didn't pay attention, but I think the streaming was better and faster for the second question as well. So let's go and ask the third question. How many actors are there in the database? So if I print the result, the answer should be 200. There are a total of 200 actors in the database. Correct. Let's continue. List the names of all the actors who have appeared in the film Bringing Hysterical. So one thing that I want to test in this query is a typo in the column, actually in the value that the LLM agent needs to find. So this is a tricky thing because sometimes it is not actually easy to design the LLMs to address those typos, but overall, there are already techniques out there such as fuzzy search that can be used behind the scene in order to improve the performance of the LLMs in case there is a typo. But I should mention that it very much also depends on the database and also on the accuracy of the answers that we are looking for. Because at the end of the day, if there is a typo in the name, and especially if the database has values, column names, and information in it that might look like each other, like they might be similar, that might actually alter the performance and it might downgrade the performance of the chatbot. But I'm just curious to see how the chatbot would deal with a scenario in which we have a typo. So let's see, and if I also print the correct answer, we can see that there are two actors for that movie. One of them is Francis and the other one is Angela. The chatbot says there are no actors listed, so it couldn't deal with the scenario in which we have a typo. But in case I fix the typo and I say bringing hysterical, and I ask the chatbot again, the answer is Francis Day Lewis and Angela. So that is correct, but just keep it in mind that you need to be precise and accurate in your queries. Another thing before I move on, as you can see, the chatbot prints also the SQL queries in case of our database that it's going to use behind the scene in order to get the answer. Again, that is something that I like, and actually it gives you some flexibility. You can take the query, you can explore it, and you can use it for other purposes as well. So this is also a nice touch on the desktop app that I found it interesting. So let's continue and let's ask another question. List the top 10 films with the highest rental rate. And if I print the correct answer, so I expect to see the rental rate for all the 10 movies to be 4.99. And in my movies, I see Ace, Goldfinger, I see Ali Forever. So let's see the answer. First, I can see that the rental rates for all of the answers are correct. And in the movies, I see Ace, Goldfinger, I see probably I don't see Ali Forever, but the reason is there are more actually movies with that rental rate. But let's check another one. So we have Amelie here and I have it right here. So let's continue and ask which actors have appeared in more than 20 films. So one thing that I want to test about this question is that the answer to this question is over 100 actors. And I want to see how the chatbot would perform in case the answer's length is just longer than an LLM would be able to deal with it. So let's print the answer also here. As you can see, I have 181, so it starts from 0, 181 actors, and I also printed out here, and the chatbot started to give us the answer. So let's see how far it goes and let's see how it will deal with that situation. So it printed, I think, around 20-30 actors, and it says, and many more. The list is trimmed due to the length limit, but you can download the complete data by clicking on the blue button. So let's see. So if I download the data, I can actually see that it is giving me all the actors. So pay attention that the index starts from 2 here. So I expect to get 182 actors. That is the correct answer. And the fact that the chatbot allowed us to download the full answer in a CSV format, I think again that is a very nice feature to have. So let's continue and ask another question. Find all customers who have rented this movie more than once. So there should be no answer for that. So as you can see, there are actually no customers who rented that movie more than once, and I just want to see what the chatbot would tell us. There are no customers who have rented that movie more than once. That is the correct answer, and I was just curious to see if the chatbot would hallucinate on that question, but we see that actually it didn't. So let's ask the next question. What is the total revenue generated from rentals of each film category? If I print the answer, I expect to get action with 4,375, some other categories, and finally travel with 3,549. So I see action with 4,375 and I see travel with 3,549. So the answer itself is correct. So I want to ask another question again to challenge the chatbot with this one, because this question contains multiple smaller questions and they are connected together. So I'm asking, find the top 3 customers who have spent the most on rentals. For each of these customers, list the total amount spent, the number of rentals, and the title of the top 3 most rented films by that customer. So the chatbot should be able to break down this query into smaller queries, execute each one, and use the result of each one for the next agent in order to give me the full response. So let's see how the chatbot would deal with this scenario. It's taking a little bit longer. I see that it broke it down into 2 queries and it started to give me the answer. So let's see. Unfortunately, the specific film rental data for these customers are not available in the response. Please let me know and I can provide. Okay, so it says it couldn't retrieve the top 3 most rental films for each of these customers, but it is asking us to let it know in case we want that. So let's ask the chatbot to see if it can find those information. And here I also want to show you another feature of the chatbot, which is the memory. So I don't need to repeat the full query. So for instance, here I can say that I want the top 3 most rented films for each of these customers as well. Let's see how the chatbot would perform. In my opinion, it's now trying to connect my query and find the relevant query to that one. As you can see, this time it broke it down into 3 queries. And let's see how it works. Actually, it is giving me the answer. Perfect. So the chatbot was able to this time perform better. So that is a wonderful performance. That is a very good example of those LLM agents behind the scene being able to fix their mistake. Let me actually elaborate a little bit more on that question. So I want to say, give me, I'm sorry, give me the top 5 most rented films for each of those customers. So now it should somehow connect the dots between this query to this one and also somehow to this one in order to understand why did I say sorry and why did I let's say interacted with the chatbot in that manner. So I can see that it started with the customer and it updated the response in order to give me 5 of them. That is, in my opinion, a wonderful performance, and I'm happy also with the accuracy because the answer itself is also correct. So in the next step, there is another feature of the chatbot, which is generating images. I want to ask the chatbot to generate 2 images for us. So first, let's ask the chatbot to generate a pie chart illustrating the proportion of films by rating category. And if I generate the pie chart myself, this is what I'm looking for. And I expect, for instance, for the value of R, I want to see 19.5%. For G, I want to see 17.8%. Here we go. So I see the values here. I can see R has 19.5, G has 17.8, R has 19.5, 17.8. So that is a correct image, and we can see that actually all the numbers match together. One observation is that even if I try to download this image, I cannot. So I can only download the values that the chatbot is showing us, but I cannot download the image itself. And I tried to zoom in and zoom out in the application itself, but I couldn't. In case we have the ability to first download the images with a high quality, and also in case we can zoom in and zoom out in the application, that would be wonderful, because right now, as you can see, the values, the numbers, everything is small. So let me ask another question. Show a stacked bar chart that shows the total revenue generated from rentals for each film category. So if I plot the second image, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm expecting to have action, for instance, with the value of 4,300 and travel with the value of, let's say, almost 3,300. So this is the query that the chatbot is using behind the scene, and let's see if the chatbot is able to give us the image. Great. So by the first look, I can see that the trends and the general look of the image is actually correct. And I can also see that I have action here with 4,300 and I have travel with 3,300. But the fact that the text and the numbers are very small again, it makes it hard for us to read. But the image itself, again, it is correct. So in the next step, I want to show you how to integrate the chatbot that we created on the website into an application. So in case I go to the website, this is the chatbot that we created together. If I go here, you will see that it says integrate chatbot. And if you click on it, you will see all the steps necessary in order to integrate that chatbot to your database. So to explain to you what is happening, I have a remote database. I want to chat with that database using AskYourDatabase. So in order to create AskYourDatabase, I need a connection string. And we saw it in the demo, how I created that connection string using ngrok URL and connected AskYourDatabase remotely to my database. And also in the demo, I showed you how we can choose the preview and test the chatbot that we created. But this chatbot by itself is not usable on the website. But what we can do instead is that point this chatbot to our application and then use my application to chat with my database. So in order to do that, I've already prepared a simple application, and probably the most important part is this secret key to verify and validate the connection between your custom application and this chatbot. So if I show you the application that I created, so this is my application right here. You can see that it is a simple HTML web page, and right here I have that secret key. I have the name and email, which for now I didn't modify them, but you can have any application and then you can integrate that chatbot into your application. So let's run the application and let's see. Actually, I had it before, but again, let's see how it performs. So if I say hello, how can I assist you today? So let's ask the same question that I asked from the chatbot. So show a stacked bar chart that shows the total revenue generated from rentals for each film category. So it just retrieved all the information for those categories, and now it is trying to plot the bar chart. One thing that I noticed here is that it actually also reordered my values and put them from the maximum to the lowest value. So let's also ask another question. So let's ask that question that we saw that the chatbot struggled a little bit. It seems there an error in the SQL query due to the use of... Okay, now I'm curious to see what was that error. So due to the use of aggregate functions within group contact function, let me correct the query and try again to retrieve the top 3 customers who have spent the most on rentals. So again, this is one thing that I was hoping to see in the chatbot, which is the fact that the LLM agents can fix themselves automatically. So we saw in the desktop app that the chatbot gave us the answer, but not the complete version. It partially gave us the answer for, let's say, 75% of our query. In the application, the LLM agents behind the scene failed to retrieve the answer, but as we can see here, they fixed themselves in order to provide us with the correct answer. And if I check the result, so I have Eleanor Hunt, I have Carl Seal, and I have Clara Shaw. I have Carl Seal, Eleanor Hunt, and I have Clara Shaw. So again, the answer itself is correct. So to wrap up the video, I just want to mention that I think we saw both the pros of AskYourDatabase and cons, and let's say the places that still have rooms for improvement, such as the download option for images. So that was it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.